Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 2nd and tonight's movie is UFO Abduction, also known as the McPherson Tape. I draw these movies at random. It was purely a coincidence that there are two alien movies in a row. UFO Abduction is interesting because it's a found footage movie from 1989, which makes it one of the first found footage movies. Apparently, it follows a family that they're in a lake house or something and they get abducted by aliens. The McPherson Tape has quite the reputation because it did what most found footage movies couldn't even dream of doing. People actually thought it was real. Whether it's because found footage movies were a very novel concept in 1989 or there really is something special about this, I can't say. I guess I'll find out. But apparently it got to the point where the movie's director had to come out and say, hey, this is fictional. I'm not going to go into this thinking that it's going to fail if it doesn't convince me that it could be real, because obviously that's an unrealistic expectation, but I am interested to see what all the fuss was about. Let me go check it out, and that won't take long. The McPherson Tape is like an hour. In full transparency, I didn't really have very high expectations for this movie, and it was about as good as I thought it was going to be, which is not very good. It does feel real, like it reads as like a home video gone wrong, but that realism was done at the cost of making a watchable movie. I'm giving this a 3 out of 10. I don't think it's worth watching. I think I'm going to not do the two-part review, one without spoilers and one with spoilers, because there's so little that actually happens in this movie that basically the synopsis of the plot is the entire story. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, these characters' last names are Van Hees or something. It's not McPherson, so I have no idea why the alternate but apparently more common title for this movie is The McPherson Tape. I guess I can understand, especially in 1989, where the idea of found footage was a very novel concept, why people saw this without context and thought it might have been real, because it does feel real. The thing is, though, you can't just record reality and expect it to be a good movie. I mean, for example, in real life, it takes a long time to walk places. In real life, people talk over each other a lot. In real life, there isn't good lighting. It's really hard to see what's happening, not just because a lot of the shots are very, very dark, but the camera is also very low quality. It's early video. At some points, that actually works in this movie's favor. There really isn't much in the way of special effects. There's basically just, like, costumes that I think kids got into to play the aliens, and like a prop that looks like a spaceship, but the fact that it's grainy means that you can't really see that it's not real. These are all practical effects, and they don't look terrible. This movie has a lot of extremely long takes. There are maybe like 5 shots total in this movie. I kind of get the impression that this was filmed without a script. They just kind of had bullet points, sort of like Paranormal Activity or the Blair Witch Project. And I will say, the acting in this movie is fine. But the whole realism factor of this movie is definitely a double-edged sword, and this movie fell on that sword and it paled itself. This movie is only an hour long, and it feels so much longer than that because it takes forever to do anything. If they actually edited this and, like, cut out all the parts of it that are totally unnecessary, this movie was probably about 10 minutes. This doesn't come off as, like, incompetence, like it's a joke in movies. It's like, oh, well, we gotta make sure we see that person walk all the way down that sidewalk. Like, they did this for a reason. They did this to add to the realism, but I'd rather watch a movie than a snapshot of reality because reality is often boring. And when there was stuff happening, it was often very muddled. A lot of people were talking over each other and yelling at each other. It was a lot like Crow's Nest. And when we actually get to the high points of the movie where things are actually happening, it's so blurry, it's so grainy, and so dark, it's hard to even tell what I'm supposed to be scared of. This movie was remade with a higher budget about 10 years later into a TV movie, and I could understand why they would want to do that. I have seen that movie, like, years ago, and I didn't think it was very good, but it was better than this. But if you really want to see a better alien found footage movie, I remember Unaware being good. I liked Phoenix Forgotten. This just missed the mark for me. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow.